Good morning, everyone. And for those on the East Coast, good afternoon. I am Mike Anderson. I'm the Operations Marketing Manager for BMD. And on behalf of BMD and our family of companies, I'd like to welcome you to the Case Studies webinar today. BMD has teamed up with our family of companies, Carriage House Door Company, Clear Ovations, Precision Building Solutions, Kansas City Millwork, and Moehl Millwork to create a monthly webinar series that covers topics from the latest building trends to net zero requirements. We will be hosting these webinars on the third Tuesday of each month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Just as a quick housekeeping note, we will be answering questions at the end of the webinar today. So any questions that you have, just go ahead and go to the top right-hand corner of your screen where it says Q&A and type in your question, and we'll be answering those at the end of the webinar. If there are any questions that we don't get to today, we will answer those via email. So we will be answering any question that gets asked either on the webinar today or we'll reach out to you with an email. To get started today, I'd like to introduce Mark Timbrook. He is our Midwest One-Step Channel Marketing Manager, and he has two case studies, two residential case studies, and one commercial case study that he would like to review today. Mark?
Great. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and good morning / good afternoon. We're going to be starting off with a project in Castle Rock, Colorado. Just an amazing home. This is a spec home down there. And so what I'd like to do is introduce Rob Dale.
So Rob, tell me a little bit about yourself. You're Rob Dale, and tell me about your business. What do you do?
So I work with Legend, and predominantly I'm kind of in charge of the custom home department, which is really myself. So we try to do about 2 to 3 large luxury custom homes a year.
So let's talk about the Sapphire Point project and talk a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird, kind of a fluke. We were was out with an investor. We were just at some properties in Castle Rock, looking to do some kind of a spec project, and we came across these properties. They weren't even listed. We just kind of stumbled upon them, and we just saw the views. It's a beautiful lot where it's on the north side of Castle Rock, but it faces south. You got views of Pikes Peak, you got the Castle Rock in the foreground, in this nice kind of secluded valley. And so we saw this and we go, we have to get these. We have to figure out how to get these. So we ended up getting 2 of the lots, and then just kind of started our process of how do we design the right house for this property? How can we do something different, something that really stands out from everybody else?
Yeah, and I really love how it looks over that valley. Of course, Castle Rock is a little bit south of Denver, and Pikes Peak is that iconic 14,000-foot peak that you can see from so many distances in Colorado, and it's just got some amazing views to that. And that deck and that kind of indoor-outdoor space. Talk about that a little bit. So you've got these gigantic doors that open up, that corner unit. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole house was designed to take advantage of that southern view, looking down the cliff and down that valley, and really like the idea of kind of blurring the lines of what's indoor, what's outdoor, and so we kind of have centrally to the whole house is this covered patio, but access to this covered patio has all these very large multi-slide doors or patio doors that are just huge. And it was very fun when we were showing the property and all that. You know, people like, oh, and these doors open. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. No, let me show you. And then it's just like the whole wall disappeared.
Right.
Wow, this is different. So really it is, especially when they're completely open. It just connects the kitchen and the dining room, which is where everybody spends time these days. You know, we don't go hang out in the living room. It seems like it's everyone, you have a party, everyone's in the kitchen. So trying to connect that area where everyone actually wants to congregate and spend time to the outdoors. That was so much of the, I think it was like and when we're doing the program with our architect, that was like, all right, here's the first thing. We want this to really be an indoor outdoor house. And I mean, a lot of it is I've been pleasantly surprised by how nice the weather actually is. So many times everyone in Colorado says, oh, you can't do that. You go to places like Hawaii and Florida or San Diego, and you see all these kind of houses that just do that, where the whole side opens up, and everybody's saying, no, you can't do that. But it's been very pleasant surprise that you're like, no, really, especially with the mild winter that we're having this year, it's been you can really connect with the outdoors and it just really adds to that entire location.
So you also used Marvin in this project pretty extensively as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did. So at one point, we were like, all right, so we got these big multi slides figured out. Where do we go from here? And one of the big deciding factors is we knew going in we wanted to do a black window look, and I personally enjoy. I think a fiberglass product in general works well in Colorado. So that was kind of our I don't know, guiding principle. But then once we got to the Western doors, it really came down to being, well, I don't want to go the full route of full anodized aluminum black windows everywhere because they get a little massive and all the stiles and rails are a little too large for what we were looking at. And then that's when we were looking at the Marvin. I think then it was Integrity
Right.
product.
So you said something there that caught my attention. You said you really like to go with fiberglass in Colorado. Why is that?
I just think with our climate, particularly with a lot of the freeze thaw and just also we had hardwood floors in this project as well. So we're adding humidifiers to try to help that. I mean, we still did, like a Colorado grown hickory, which I didn't even know was there to try to minimize shrinking and all that. We can go from a dry to a fairly wet to right back to dry climate in the case of 2 hours here. That
right.
I just go. I've just had better luck with the fiberglass than sometimes some of the wood windows. And then there's also the added ability of just again going, oh well, we know we wanted black, so and the idea of let's go through this house with all these massive clear story areas and super tall windows that you just will never get to after we're done building this thing. Painting those all black didn't sound like a great idea.
That's right. But the other thing you did is you did a Glenview door on the front door.
We did.
What brought you to Glenview?
So really that kind of came from just working with Hank. He was our sales guy on this one, and
Sure.
he was just kind of seeing what interior design we were starting to come up with, and he suggested, hey, well, why don't you take a look at this for your front door? And was really impressed actually with a lot of their, I guess you could say stock options. They're just like, hey, this is a great door. And so just really found, particularly, we went with a really dark. It's a really dark espresso mahogany door. So again, that's kind of tying in with the windows where it's not quite black, adds a little bit of warmth to that. But we loved it. We liked it enough that we ended up doing all the interior doors, trying to match that same look. We did a custom door for the master bedroom, matching that same look of the front door. And half the cabinets in the kitchen we ended up changing the selection for it to match that front door. So it kind of really came down. It's kind of odd. All of our interior design choices ended up revolving around first this multi-slide corner door, and then the front door. When the guests are coming, they're greeted by this nice, beautiful mahogany door, but that same look and feel continues through your experience as you enter the house, and you're kind of in the public areas of the house.
Now you did True Style on the interior doors, is that correct?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of all flows together too with that design.
Yes.
And
So the whole the upper floor it's all stained grade True Style, and predominantly I like the quality of the door that we were feeling. It's nice. I'm not a fan of flimsy hollow core doors and all that. So even the closet doors, we did solid doors. that kind of a thing. But then we'd also just really like the profile. I think it really matched the look that we were trying to go for. And then, of course, with the master door, having that option of where they can do the metal inlays as well. So it just kind of all worked out real well.
Well, it was just a beautiful home. It's a great story. I'm glad to see you moving on to the next one. I can't wait to see that one develop and come together. I understand you broke ground on that one. So
yep, we're actually digging a hole today. So
that's great. That's great. I really appreciate your time. This has been great. Just a wonderful project, just a beautiful thing. So thanks for your time, Rob, and I appreciate you.
No problem.
Great. So now let's move to River West. This is a condo development up in Silverthorne, Colorado. And I'm going to talk with Kevin Keefe on this one.
All right. So I'm here with Kevin Keefe. He's the sales manager for Clear Ovations of Colorado. And we want to talk about River West, Kevin. This has been a fun project to watch develop over this year and even before, I think, a little bit, but pretty big project in a very excellent area of Colorado, right in the middle of 5 or 6 different ski areas. And so let's talk about, how did this all come about? What's the background behind River West?
Well, I'm the 3rd generation Clear Ovations salesperson involved. It started with Pat, and then it was moved to Hank Hoving in Colorado, both of which have moved to California. So I've been involved in the project for a little over a year, and it's been a work in progress. I mean, it's 9 full buildings. It's very extensive. Obviously, you've seen some of the pictures. It's right on the main thoroughfare in Silverthorne, right up against the views of the mountains and everything. So it's a really unbelievably, sought after location. And with 9 buildings, and they're all for sale condominiums, so there's a lot of activity. It's a lot of involvement, much more involvement before we ever got to the scene, right? So, I mean, the planning and execution of this, when you look at their website and you look at our website to see some of the things that we've cataloged on the project, it's pretty amazing, all the detail that went into it. And I appreciate it from 2 standpoints. One is obviously with Clear Ovations and the Marvin windows that they're using, which we'll talk about. But having been a developer and builder myself before of projects similar to this, but in Nevada, understand what goes into it, both in terms of the planning and then the ongoing execution and closings, which are what are happening right now. But it's really coming together very, very much online with the way they, the way it was planned. So it's pretty exciting to see.
Well, it's just a beautiful project. I know you mentioned it's right there on the Blue River, and that's a real selling point for them. I mentioned it's got access to the ski areas, but one aspect of this that Clear Ovations has done a lot with is the Marvin windows and doors, and in talking with them a little bit, that's a big selling point for them.
Well, it is, and the way it was designed was with the darker colors inside and outside. So what they're utilizing is, Marvin's Essential line, which is the full fiberglass inside and outside, no wood jams. So drywall's returned to the inside of the frame, so it's real sleek, real modern looking, real clean. And it's all designed, all the assemblies are designed with MRF, which are Moehl reinforcement pieces of fiberglass for protection in the wind and everything that they get up there. And so it's just a real clean looking look for the end product. Customers seem to really like it, and gives them great views of the mountains, the river on the other side, as well as just functionality all the way through the design of the project. So.
Yeah, and it's not always you see something this high end in a development like this. A lot of time these multifamily complexes are trying to cut corners wherever they are, and windows are usually vinyl or something very basic and simple. But this is a different project, isn't it? Because there's a price tag on these that are selling that you don't normally see in a multifamily, but it's in a location that's very desirable, that can turn into a rental property for somebody. One thing, I don't know if I have a chance, but hopefully we'll get to talk to Kelly that, she talks about as a broker of these units, the windows sell the piece. When she opens that back door and you can hear the sound and you close it up and just everything's just so tight, potential buyers really buy into that, don't they?
Well, they do, and it started with the ownership group and the builder, Dallas Creek Construction, believing in the concept, and the reality of it is that this is more expensive for them. They didn't take the path of least resistance with the cheapest, but they recognized the value. They were willing to spend a little bit more, and the customers are certainly appreciating it, and that's working, forward as a sales proposition for them. I mean, they see the value. The ultimate end user sees the value, and they're going to be living with them and operating them for a long time. So it's really important. So.
Yeah, that's really good. And you mentioned Dallas Creek. They've been a great partner on this, and I know we've been working with them from the beginning. So it's really, really good to see them move forward with this. I know they've got another project that they've got their eyes on, and I don't know how much we can talk about that yet, but it just has built to this point, right? That there's a lot of good things coming out of it, and them to be able to sell these units so quickly, so rapidly is such a testimony to the craftsmanship and the work that's gone into this and the value of these products.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a lot of competition, not only in their surrounding area, but all the way through the mountains. The market has been pretty stabilized and still been fairly strong, but they do have competition. And I think just the way the whole project has been designed, the combination of the location, the attention to detail, everything that has been moving forward, I think people have appreciated, and it's shown up in their sales. The real key is everybody's worked together to come up with solutions to keep the ball moving forward in the right direction, and that's really, I think, what's made it successful.
Yeah, well, it's just a beautiful project. It's a real testimony to the work that's gone on between Clear Ovations and our contractor, our builder in Dallas Creek, and the ownership group there, and look forward to seeing what's going to happen next with that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so let's shift gears once again, and we're going to talk about a couple of remodeling projects. We're going to talk to Rusty Green this time.
All right, I'm here with Rusty Green from Compelling Homes. Rusty, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time. And just tell me a little bit about Compelling Homes, first of all. What do you guys do?
Sure. First of all, this is pretty cool. Thanks for including us. I'm glad we can be here. Compelling Homes is a remodeling contractor. All we do is take homes apart and put them back together again. There was a point in time where I thought I wanted to build homes, and I've done commercial work, and I've fallen in love with remodeling. So based in Des Moines, Iowa, my office, a little town called Grimes, we do 20 to 24 projects a year, and we only do 4 things. We'll do kitchens, basements, bathrooms, and home additions. That's it. Small staff. There's only 5 people in the company. So that's in a nutshell, that's us.
All right, that's great. I've seen some of your work, and I'm really excited to talk to you about some of this stuff. Some beautiful things, some fun things we'll talk about a little bit today. But maybe we'll start with the wood residence and just talk about that project. Now, you work with Moehl Millwork on this project a little bit, right? And so maybe we'll start there. And how do you work with Moehl? Tell me a little bit about your relationship and how that has evolved over time.
Sure. Moehl Millwork is our go-to company for anything cabinet or millwork related, and even some specialty products on another project. So I like to kind of get married to a vendor or a supplier because it gets to be so relationship based, and they've got a designer there, Tina, that is just over the moon with how good she is. She's been doing this for a number of years. So she brings to the table the ability for me to walk into any homeowner and say, we can do that with all the confidence in the world. So I know I've got Moehl Millwork in my back pocket because I have found out that no matter how strange or no matter how complicated or no matter how detailed we want to design something, the answer I get from Moehl Millwork is okay. And that's what we need, to be successful. So over the years, we take our customers shopping with us, and we go to Moehl Millwork. They've got a phenomenal showroom, and they've got a great staff with all the products anywhere between extremely contemporary to French country. And we can look at it on the showroom floor. So when we bring a client there, I know I've got the products, the people, the talent, the time for my customers to wrap their head around what it is that we've got in a design fulfilled through product and staff at Moehl. It's the level of expectation that I sell off of, and it's a level of expectation that our staff needs to confidently run a job. I get it from Moehl.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic here. So let's jump into the wood project a little bit, the wood residence, and tell me what went into that project. What kind of things did you do in that project?
That's a great question. Looking at the after photographs, it's kind of, the question becomes exactly, what did you do? And the answer is actually everything.
Wow.
We like to say we're good at kitchens, basements, bathrooms, and home additions. So on that one, it's a kitchen, a basement, a bathroom, and a home addition. We did everything. Homeowners came to us and basically said, we bought this home, a number of years ago, and we knew it's not right. We knew it wasn't big enough. We knew it wasn't going to satisfy everything we wanted, but it's got the right lot. It's on the right street. We got a great deal on it. It's got the right view. What can we do to get there? So we actually added about 1,000 square feet onto the home, and with that number, it allowed back to Moehl Millwork to come to Moehl Millwork and say, I'm going to do a 12-foot kitchen island. I want to do a hidden pantry in the kitchen. I want to do a custom wood hood where I can match the style of the cabinets. I'm going to do a lower level bar. Moehl Millwork backed me up on all of it. So downstairs in the basement, we really ramped up the fun. There is a feature wall that I bought all the hardwoods and softwoods from Moehl Millwork, but they hooked me up with all the hinging mechanism in order to hide a 12 or 13 pinball game arcade, behind this wall. So having the opportunity to, again, be able to tell my customers, we can do that. I can't have that confidence if I don't have the opportunity to work with the material and people that I need. So that was a lot of fun.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that feature. That was one thing that stood out for me when I started looking at these photographs, and you see those pinball machines back there, and then you say it's behind that entertainment wall, right? So you've got the big screen there, and you've got a hidden door on the wall. That's just amazing. So it's just a beautiful project. And what are the cabinets that you used in that?
Yorktown is kind of the line that Tina and I have found that it's got the features, it's got the flexibility to do custom stuff. Like at the wood residence, there's a portion of that where the ceiling is up to 12 feet. And I wanted to stretch your eye up to accommodate that. So I think we've got 50-inch uppers on that, if I remember correctly, 48 or 50s. And then we can do a riser and a crown. So it gets this dramatic look. And working with Yorktown, I get customization. I've got the ability to do a hidden pantry. I can do multiple built-in ovens and microwaves, and it just starts to work. They've got the flexibility and the products to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, so let's go to the Mead residence. So that was another project you did recently as well. Talk about that one a little bit.
Meads are great. High energy. What they brought to the table is this question. They would come to me and say, we think our house is out of date, but it's all we know. So we've been going around to our neighbors' homes that have been updated and brand new construction, and they realize that perhaps we are stuck in yesteryear. Can you help us?
Wow.
And that's how that conversation started. So you design it, and and it starts to turn into. We have a project here in Des Moines, Iowa. We do it so often. We call it the main floor scramble. You're not going to find it anywhere on Google. And what that is walk in the front door and scramble all the walls and put it all back together again. We call it the main floor scramble, which is exactly what the Mead residence is. It's the kitchen, yes. It's the laundry room, the powder room, the front office, the front stairway, the back stairway, the living room, the fireplace, the master bedroom, the master bathroom, all the windows in the house. All of that took place inside the Mead residence. And Moehl Millwork was with us from beginning to end.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just another beautiful home.
Thank
So,
you.
one of the things I like what you said, well, one thing I said, I think I asked you, about the highlights. What are the highlights of the home? And I think you answered it was the homeowners. The homeowners was the highlights. That's what you're saying? Yeah. But the other thing you talked about is, I love what you said about with Moehl Millwork. If there's a problem, what did you say about that?
Oh yeah, if there's a problem, there won't be a problem.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just love that, and that it kind of gives me goosebumps, to think about that. But we really search for that in all of our trade partners, whether it's an electrician, a painter, or where am I buying my cabinet hardware? If we can get a trade partner to align with that method of thinking, combine that with an enthusiastic, energetic customer like the Woods and the Meads, the result is great projects. We like to say great homeowners equal great projects. But highlights-wise, the Wood residents, the company won an award called the I Wish I Thought of That award. It's an award we win from the Home Builder Association. We're honestly not sure why we won it, because there's a cool fireplace and the hidden pantry and the hidden pinball machine. The Mead residents, the highlight, a couple things. We bought an amazing door from Moehl Millwork, and a huge thank you to Almir over at Moehl Millwork, who got us a barrel top door from Goods, which is a product that they buy through Moehl. And it's outstanding. It's 9 feet tall, it's 6 feet wide, it's barrel top, it's all functional, all of it measured, designed, supplied by Moehl Millwork, fit like a glove. It's fantastic. It looks great.
Yeah. It is beautiful, and it's just a great feature of the home as well. And Moehl's part of we're an employee-owned business, and that's one of the things that brings people like us together and Moehl together, that it takes it very seriously about what we do. Is we're all invested in it, and so it's great to have partners like you that we can work with and just have a little fun with, and be a little exploratory or experimental, and just make things happen. So
yep.
It's been a fun thing. So Rusty, I really appreciate your time. Beautiful projects, and thanks for sharing them with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Just to use your word, some beautiful projects. Whether the adjective is incredible, breathtaking, gorgeous, just some amazing homes and amazing projects that you took the time to review with us today. One thing that I was blown away with, and Rusty mentioned this a couple times, is just that pinball game room. Incredible idea, incredible, just amazing. Something I'm looking at and looking at for me for future, going, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it sure took me back, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's again, thanks to you and Rob and Kevin and Rusty for reviewing some of the incredible projects that they have been on. One thing that stood out to me as well is just the teamwork with the builder, the supplier, and everybody in the area to make these gorgeous projects come to life. Just great job.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Just let's shift gears a little bit. We're going to kick over down to Southern California, and I want to introduce Richard De La Hoya. He is our commercial territory manager in Southern California for BMD, and he's going to walk us through two unbelievable projects. It's going to blow you away with some of the challenges that were presented to him and the team, and some of the solutions that they came up with. And again, this one thing you'll hear from here is just teamwork, and also the ability to pivot and collaborate to come up with the best ideas to complete the project. Richard, let's kick it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning, everybody, and good afternoon, depending on where you're located. Let me put my reading glasses on here. So the first thing I want to do is just, obviously I was introduced there, so our focus within the millwork division of BMD, where I work at, is on the exterior windows and exterior doors. So that's basically in a nutshell what we do. So I want to look at this case study first here in San Diego. It's in downtown San Diego. This is the Guild Hotel, and it was a conversion. It's a 1920 era building, and as you can see by the logo at the top there, you'll see YMCA. So this was originally designed to be the YMCA for the military. Many of you may know that San Diego has a strong history of military presence. So that was the use for this building. And then it was vacant for several years. And we're going to look at the conversion of it to a high-end hotel in San Diego. Okay, let's see here. All right, so this is not the front elevation, but this is the back elevation. And so I love mid-construction pictures. They tell a story. So what you see here in white are the original steel windows, pretty common in 1920 era buildings in Southern California and probably Northern California as well. So there was a challenge. This is historic restoration. So following that process, typically they want to restore, if at all possible, by any means. And then if you can't restore, then you need to replace. So from the floor's second floor on up, the city's historic review board approved for replacement for various reasons. Some of it was there were missing windows. It's hard to replicate these steel windows. The glazing had wire mesh inside of it, and that was a very costly replacement feature. And so for various reasons, they allowed for replacement, again, from the second floor on up. The first floor was all restoration. And so what we did here is, if you look at these steel windows, I'm going to show you what we did. So if we look at this slide here, I know this is brown here, but this is still also a steel window. What we did is we took a Marvin next generation double hung window, full frame window, and what we wanted to do is how can we integrate it into the original steel window frame. The Historic Review board really liked the idea of keeping the original steel window frame. So ultimately it's a sash replacement, for lack of a better words, but we're really taking a full frame window and inserting it into the original steel window frame. And so this is the process of how we collaborated with everybody. We weren't the first call to this project. There were probably about that's probably exaggerating, probably 5 or 6 manufacturers. That's how stories go sometimes. They exaggerate. There'll be 20 by 2 years from now. But there are about 5 to 6 manufacturers that came before us, and everybody could make a product, but what they were looking for is people to just solve problems and for somebody to come on site and really offer consultation. So on the BMD side, us being the Marvin manufacturer representatives, we were definitely integral and on site on this job, along with our Marvin dealer, as well as the contractor, as well as the architect, as well as the waterproofer. So there was a lot of collaboration. So what you see here is us just mocking things up. How do we get from point A to point B? So Marvin has a wide variety of aluminum extruded subsills. And so what we did is we went on site and we started snapping in different pieces to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And this fit nice here, as you can see where I detailed it. And then when I slid it over to the edge, this is the original steel casing profile, integral to the steel window frame. And then this detail isn't so pretty, right? It doesn't marry up very well. So we'll show how we contended with that in a little bit. And by the way, this is an aluminum clad window, Marvin window, wood to the inside. So it's factory painted black to the inside, it's ebony exterior, and then we're able to match the original profiles of the original steel windows. This is just a quick snapshot showing Marvin's subsill availability stock items. And then here's just a drawing. So in the process, this wasn't the final thing, and this was just showing the process. So here are some drawings that we created with our BMD tech department. You know, again, consulting with the waterproofing consultant, the contractor, the installer, all the people I mentioned. So you can see here there's the original steel window frame, and then basically we would insert that next generation double hung into that frame. And so it was just the collaboration, it was the drawing, just kind of showing you the process. And then here's us just continuing with that in real life. So you see here all the Marvin next generation double hung windows did is we had the sash removed, and then we'd insert the frame into the original steel window frame. Imagine all the cost and time that we saved the builder and the owner by not having them removed every single one of these original steel windows, because that was the plan originally. So we're able to save a lot of time and money there. But basically, we insert that frame, we put through jam fasteners through the pre-drilled spots in the next generation double hung window to tap into the original steel window frame. And then just continuing with the process, here's that subsill, but in ebony. And do you remember when I showed you that detail when we slid over in the process, we slid over that subsill when we were trying to find what would work and when it worked, and I showed you how it was a funky detail? I'll put an arrow here. So it was really trick, in my opinion. The installer did a great job. He took the profile of the original steel casing that you see there, and he created a jig. And what he did is he cut the ends of the subsill profile. He notched them on both sides so that when it was put in place, it fit as if it was meant to be there from the beginning. And then so what you see over here on the right, again, this is still mid-construction, but it's essentially the finished product. Obviously, still has to be cleaned up with some of the construction overspray there. But you can see how everything tied in, fit perfectly. You can't really see it here, but there's intermittent caulking there. There's a gap. So in the event, if there ever was water infiltration, water would find its way down and take the least path of resistance and weep out on the original terracotta. And so you have a plan for water management long term. And so just going back to the original elevation for reference, we're going to zoom in and focus on these double hungs on the top floor. And then you'll also see that there's the round top windows on top of them. And then you see double hungs on the rest of the front elevation. So what I showed you just now, what we finished was the back side, right? All those were original steel windows. That was not the case in the front or side elevation. These were not steel windows. So totally different application, but still the same window solution, just applied and installed differently. And again, anybody can supply windows. It's the consultation, it's the advice, it's the experience, it's the collaboration, it's the technical support team that really, in my opinion, helps drive these to be successful. So let's take a peek at that. So here's us on that top floor that I circled out on the scaffolding. And so you can see here are those round top, and here were the original double hung windows. So when removed, you have these big cavities, deep cavities in here. So what we propose is to put a buck system, a wood buck system in there. But what we also found is when we removed those arch tops, that there's this faux wall behind there. So if you're standing on the inside, right? If you're standing on the inside, and we'll draw Mike Anderson there. There we go. If Mike Anderson was on the inside and he's looking out, you can't see. So how do we contend with all this? And then how do we deal with these cavities when we put in the buck? And then how do we tie it into the original stonework? And how do we make it waterproof? And how do we make sure we don't screw it up? So what we see on the right here is us just in that process. This is just us coming up with the plan. So what I don't want anybody to look at this rigid pan and say, wow, that's a horrible rigid pan. Yes, it is. That would not be what we would advocate during actual install. This was purely for mock-up purposes, right? So us coming up with an idea of putting a rigid pan in there for long-term water management purposes. We always say that a rigid pan is cheap insurance, as it does a great job in managing water. But let's go ahead and go a little further. Here's just kind of a close-up. Right, we got our buck system in here that filled in this deep cavity that's behind here. But again, how do we contend with all this? So luckily, Marvin has a wide variety of extruded aluminum casing profiles. This isn't all of them. This is just some of them. But what we ended up selecting, I believe, if I recall in this project, was the Grayson casing because it closely resembled the original wood casing on this building. And this is what the San Diego Historic Board approved. And again, just going back to, this wasn't the final drawing, but this was just us coming up with some ideas, collaborating with all the people I mentioned. And then here's where that void is, right? There was the buck. We put that in there to fill the void, right? Here's the wood buck, and here's the window. But then there was this void, so we proposed to fill that void with Sika Quick mortar. And then you can see how our casing here, which comes applied to the window, and how it all ties together. So let's look at that in real life. So we took it from paper, we took it from talking, we took it into the real world. So on this picture here, let's focus on this one first. You can see the window, the Marvin Next Generation double hung, butt up against the buck system that we put in. We used a different subsill here than we did on the back elevation. And following with the installer, he ran these long and notched it out so we could tuck that subsill nicely into that void. And then again, we were going to fill this with Sika Quick mortar to fill this cavity. And so what you see here on the left side, you can see that nice Grayson casing butted up nicely against the original stonework. You see the round top in place. This was already, we didn't remove this. This was just painted. And then the Marvin Next Generation double hung window in here. And then you can see down here the subsill and how it all ties together. So quite a lot of collaboration, a lot of technical support, a lot of consulting to bring all this together. And again, this is what they were looking for. And again, there's other manufacturers brought to the table, but it was BMD as the Marvin manufacturer rep collaborating with our great dealer network and helping with our tech department really to drive the solution on this project. And this is just my boss, Chris Martin, there with the hard hat, just kind of showing us we're consulting the installer, just making sure that we were on site to make sure that we answered any questions during the initial install. And here's just some beauty shots I took from online. This is from Vogue Australia, just showing the front elevation of what it looks like now. Here's another beauty shot as well. And this is the inside courtyard where there's a restaurant. Just some nice beauty shots. And this was from Forbes magazine. So really happy with how this project turned out. Let's go to the next case study. So this was commercial restoration. This is in Manhattan Beach, California. This is about 3 blocks from the ocean. It's about 3 blocks from the Manhattan Beach Pier. And so this is not the finished picture. We're starting with where we began. So obviously this was antiquated and needed an upgrade. So you have your 3rd floor, your 2nd floor, and your 1st floor down here. And so what happened on this one is our Marvin dealer asked me to meet the vice president of Skechers Construction in that building that we were just looking at, as well as the architect. It was Herdman Architect. The general contractor was KCI Construction. And we all sat at a conference room. And originally we were brought there just to handle some punch-out windows and just to discuss that. But the architect slid basically this across the table and said, you couldn't do a storefront rendition in aluminum clad with wood to the inside, could you, in the Marvin product? Because we'd really like to have something more energy efficient, and we'd really like to have something a little bit more different than the status quo storefront solution. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So all these red lines, all they represent essentially here is the collaboration of us going back and forth with the architect to come up with the design. And here's just a snapshot of one shop drawing that we created for very large Marvin narrow frame awning windows, large mold assemblies, and they connected in a 90-degree fashion. And so this was just the drawing that we created showing where the steel structure was going to be here, right? Here's our windows. And then this represents all the aluminum extrusions that Marvin has and how we're going to tie all that together. So again, just one snapshot of the collaboration that we had to support this project. And here's just looking. So if you look here on the left, here's that shop drawing I printed out in my printer. And this is actually the 3rd floor. All the walls are removed. This is the outside scaffolding. So we were literally walking on top of the third floor where it used to exist. And you can see that there's chalk. You see here, right here, you see a corner sample window. And we literally sat out there with the fabricator, with the installer, and we had everything chalked out and everything measured because we didn't want we didn't want anything to go wrong. And so over here on the right, you kind of see that fabrication that was done for us. And let's just continue down. So this is what it looks like. So this is what it looks like now, right? So you see here, these are all narrow frame awning windows. They came factory mold about 2 wide. So about every 2 wide, there was some structure required by others. And we used the Marvin standard aluminum mold covers to cover those. So we had a consistent look all the way across. And you can see how we did that nice 90-degree extrusion profiles to tie all that together. And so it looks as if it came off the truck as one large assembly, but obviously it was pieces put together. I also like you to notice on the bottom here, same window, same Marvin narrow frame awning window, but notice the contrast. You have a contemporary look on the bottom and you have a traditional look on top. So you can get that contemporary look with Marvin, that traditional look with Marvin. You could even get a modern look with Marvin. So now just for a focus on here, this represents the second floor. This is just a snapshot of the third floor mid-construction, just showing you here. But right here, what you see is a Marvin clad ultimate multi-slide door system that biparts in the middle. So just to go back for reference, this is the opening we're talking about here. There was no multi-slide in place there. There was just basically glass doors and just regular glazing and you know, not that, it's a little bit of an antiquated look, to put it lightly. So big transformation. So this is, again, just coming back to collaboration, making sure that we're forward thinking. What is this going to look like? How do we want this to perform? This is on the ocean. This is on the coast. We're thinking wind-driven rain. There's no overhang. And so on the left here just represents us showing the different thresholds that come with the door system. There's a water management system. There's a ADA system that has no water management, which is what they ultimately went with. So what we had to ensure to counter that was, do we have slope so any water infiltration would keep going to the exterior of the building? We had to ensure that they were going to put in a nice drainage system. And what was nice is we did get some heavy-duty storms right after. It does rain in Southern California on occasion, and we got some nice heavy-duty storms on the coast and performed beautifully, no issues. But that's just kind of showing you, this is still mid-construction. You can kind of see here they're not quite done cleaning everything up, but just a total transformation of a boardroom from what it was to what it is now. Here's just an inside shot. I know it looks like it's a curved multi-slide. That's not the case. That's just my simple iPhone doing a panel view to try and capture it. But I just wanted to show what a total transformation if they're inside this boardroom looking out, or vice versa if they're on the street looking in. Again, this is wood to the inside, factory painted black, ebony on the exterior, that nice Kynar 260511 finish from Marvin on the outside. And then that brings us to the last part of this case study. If you remember, I told you the story that the architect said you can't mimic storefront in aluminum clad, can you, or come close to it. Well, this was the solution that our tech department and I and our dealer came up with. So you see Marvin commercial doors. Again, these are all aluminum clad, wood to the inside. And yes, Marvin does make true commercial doors. And then what you see are Marvin narrow frame direct glaze windows. And so these would come factory mold, I want to say every 2. And what we would do is here we had a solid mull. Marvin has a wide variety of mull options. And so we did a Marvin solid mull, and then there would be structure by others here, and we would put a mull cap over it so we'd get the consistent look all the way across. So let's take a peek at that. So here it is, just mid-construction. Again, we're all about waterproofing. We're on site just making sure that SAF's being put on there. Everything's being installed correctly. Here's just kind of showing you what I was highlighting earlier in the vertical. So you have like a solid mole here, and then you have a mole covering structure on the other side. And then I really want to highlight this as well. So here's the energy performance of these windows. So it's not just the glass, it's the whole window system, including the frame. So you add a 0.30 U factor and a 0.29 solar heat gain coefficient. You would not be able to get that with just standard traditional storefront. So the energy efficiency of this building was drastically improved. And then, of course, you're getting just a nice upscale look compared to just the status quo storefront. And just kind of showing you, again, just continuing, this is just what it looks like. You can see our commercial doors. You can see how we mimic storefront. And it continued over here. And we even had to wrap it around some 90-degree corners. And we did wrap those with clad like you saw earlier. And just kind of showing you what it looks like. And here's just a couple of last beauty shots to close it out. Again, contrasting, you see the awning window here in a contemporary style. Same awning window up here in a traditional style. And you can see this was mid-construction, us mimicking our storefront. And another beauty shot. Just wanted to show you the proximity of it to the ocean. And if you've got to go to a job site like 15 times, it's not a bad job site to go to. But I do want to highlight this roundhouse building right here. This is always on the news when they do the weather for KABC Los Angeles. And we actually did this whole roundhouse building, which is an aquarium in Marvin Ultimate Clad product as well, prior to us doing this project. So pretty cool that we have two projects here. And we actually did one 2 blocks over that's just finishing construction now as well. So that's the case study. We'd be glad to open it up to any questions.
Thanks, Richard. Those projects were just absolutely incredible. Again, I love one key word that I picked up from there was collaboration. The collaboration with the architects, the design team, the client, the installers. Just a beautiful job. Love the finished, the hotel, the Skechers building. One quick question that I had for you is how long did that full remodel or completely restoration of the hotel take?
The hotel took about a year. I think I said it was a year and a half, give or take a few months is what it took. The windows obviously wasn't that portion of it, but the whole thing took about a good year and a half. And it was down to just on the inside, there were no walls whatsoever. There were just 4 walls on every floor. In between was just nothing but rough, pure, original, wonky concrete. And so they had to literally, it was kind of, I guess they had a blank slate if you looked at it from a glass full perspective.
Okay. Yeah, it just looks like an unbelievable transformation. We got a question from John in Colorado. Mark, I'm going to throw this over to you and Kevin. What is the relationship of Clear Ovations to BMD?
Oh, that's a great question. Kevin, you want me to answer? Or you want to go?
Go for it.
Okay, well, Clear Ovations is actually part of BMD. BMD owns Clear Ovations, Moehl Millwork, and Kansas City Millwork. So we all work very closely together on projects. It's really great to see Richard and the team down in Southern California doing a lot of the same things we're doing at these different areas. You heard Rusty talk about Moehl Millwork and how they just really strive to help him. And, if there is a problem, there is no problem. That's the general attitude that comes from the culture at BMD. Moehl Millwork has had that for a very long time, and they joined us a few years ago, BMD, and being a employee-owned business, as I mentioned, is a big benefit to that. It just gets everybody involved. Everybody buys into to the vision that we need to be successful as a whole, and so it really drives a culture of customer service and just a really good service to everybody we work with.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Richard, a quick question for you that came up is, what do you think the selling point on the Sketcher project was to go with Marvin?
There were 2 factors. It was They wanted something more energy efficient versus traditional storefront. That was number one, but somewhat with the same look. But they wanted more of an upscale look to the inside. That was the other reason as well. Those were the two drivers.
Okay. Another quick question for you, Richard. What are some options for installation, especially on commercial projects?
For installation, so within the BMD family, we have precision building solutions. So we do have an installation arm that is definitely well versed in projects like this. I think that's where the question was going, but obviously any installer could do it, but our installation arm is pretty well versed in the Markham product and other products.
Yeah. And just to address that from the one-step side, Clearations and Moehl Millwork both have installation services that they apply. A lot of that is on the residential side, but commercial projects are also something that we look at as well.
Thanks, Richard and Mark, for those answers to those questions. I think that's about it. It looks like all the questions have come through and that we've been able to answer those. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for their time. We know that you guys are extremely busy, very busy time of the year for everyone. I just want to remind you, on January 19th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, we'll be having our next webinar. And this webinar in January, we're going to focus on net zero and energy efficiency. So it'll be a great webinar to jump on to see what the latest